Ooh, we got right into it. What's up, people? How you doing? Good to see you. Thanks for being here. Tis a Monday. We're live on Odyssey. You can go and watch the show on Odyssey. We're live on Substack. You can go and watch the show on Substack. If you don't want to support YouTube's, it's whatever you want to do. It's your call. Anyways, thanks for being here. And we just ride through the wacky times, just riding through the landscape of weirdness. And, well, all right, sounds good. Looks okay. I don't know. It looks okay on StreamYard, but it can look real sus on Substack and Odyssey sometimes. I think it's okay right now, though. Maybe we got a good, strong morning stream going, although it's not the morning, it's noon. Good afternoon. Well, there was a big push on the market today, this morning. And it came after Trump came out and said that he was in talks with Iran and that they were not going to hit, as I have pointed out, several others have pointed out as well. I think that they don't, you think that they want to go full retard, but they do understand that there was a cost of having things spin out of control. Right? There is some kind of awareness there. There is a bit of self-awareness. I don't know what what the end goal is. Nobody really knows. And I think it's a little bit of hubris to say that you do. I don't know. But what it definitely looks like coming and going is that they're just finding new and improved ways of siphoning money out of the tax base, out of the markets, out of like whatever way that they can turn a buck and scrape some dollars from people. That seems to be what seems to be evident, is that that's what they're interested in, and they don't really care about much else. But in order to do that, you have to have some kind of working economy. Because if the economy doesn't work at all, if everything goes, if everything goes haywire, then you really don't know. It's harder to control. That's why I'm always like skeptical of the idea that they're, that there's a controlled demolition of the economy. Yeah, they're controlling some demolishing here and there, but they don't want to demolish the entire economy. That's how they make money. That's how they scrape money off of you and I. If there is no trust or faith, or if there's no participation in the economy or in the system or in the markets or anything, then they're SOL. Right? If everybody is just like, nope, we're not doing this anymore because we just can't. And that's kind of why they're, one of the reasons, it looks like one of the reasons why Trump made this statement, and we're going to get into it, because it looks like the statement was pure lies. There was a rebuttal from Iran saying, we're not having any talks. It might be Denver. It might be degrowth, but at the same time, they can't degrow things too quickly. So a controlled degrowth or controlled demolition, it has to be very controlled, right? Because if you spin out of control, then there's nothing for anybody to control, right? That control is the operative word. More so control than degrowth or depopulation or whatever it is. And I think too, even if they want to degrow or do degrowth or even depopulation, you have a hard time with that because the entire economy is built on endless growth. Everything on this planet right now, the entire system that everybody lives under, is built on endless growth. And when you don't have endless growth anymore, you can't float, you can't float possibilities the way that you can, right, with treasuries even, right, or anything, Social Security, or right, we're always going to grow, or there's always going to be this endless input of money. What else? If everybody's tilted towards degrowth, well, then there's not a lot of investment opportunities as far as like development, right? If the governments come out and say like, we're gonna, I mean, it's part of the scheme behind renewable energy, right? Renewable energy is actually built on growth. It's not built on degrowth. They call it decarbonization, but it's actually built on growth. If it was built on degrowth, there wouldn't be any money in it, right? Because if people were like, we're going to use a lot less energy, there's going to be a lot less people using a lot less energy. Well, then there's where's the upside on that? There isn't a lot of upside on that because, all investment is based on a rate of return, which is constantly growing. So everything about what we're doing is built on growth. And so they're playing a very, I don't know, they're playing a game with everyone right now. And maybe they know that everything there is no upside, right? They know that this is the end of the growth economy. They know that climate change is not going to allow for business as usual to operate for much longer. There's an end to everything. There's an end to a stable climate. There's an end to, cheap fossil fuel energy, which you need to grow all the renewables too, by the way. There's an end to the debt bubble that we've created. There's an end. They know that there's an end to this. How do they control what's happening while everything's kind of unraveling and everybody sees it's unraveling? Everybody can see with their own eyes, like, yep, oh, definitely it's going in a bad direction. How do they keep people invested in the system? And they're not doing a great job of it. I mean, even even the data, even data scraping and data mining and algorithm, AI and all that stuff. Is kind of built on, right, like that people are going to be involved in willingly involved in this, right? If you're not willingly involved in it or trapped in the system that there's no way for you to actually maneuver without saying, oh, here, okay. It is, what people have not understood for a long time is that you are already trapped in the system on a lot of levels. They've trapped people into the system of, you need a car to get to work. You need to, you need to buy insurance. You need to buy, all this stuff in order to survive. You need to go to the store to get your groceries. You need, and you are dependent on all of these things for your livelihood. And try opting out and see how painful that is and how weird you look and how, see how long that lasts. But I think it's going to be so painful to be a part of the system for a lot of people. It already is painful for a lot of people to be a part of the system. It's going to be so painful to be a part of the system for so many in the near future that most people are going to be like, actually, opting out looks great. Actually, I'll try my luck with opting out. It might be okay. We might be all right. Anyways, whatever. I got off on a tangent. Blatant market front-running manipulation. This is Chris Martenson. Prediction, this is the last you'll hear about it. 5 minutes before Trump's announcement, $1.5 billion worth of futures are bought in a single clip. 192 million of oil futures sold. So this announcement did two things, which is boost the stock market and drive oil prices down. Because again, if oil prices go up too high, too fast, at a sustained rate, you're going to crash the economy. It's going to be, people are not going to be able to keep going. And they're probably trying to scramble to find a way to get oil prices back down because they've already jumped. Gas prices have already jumped like so high that it's, people are going to start making decisions about whether to pay, keeping gas in their car to get to their job so they can buy food. And then they're going to be like, well, do I pay this credit card bill, or am I going to be late on my mortgage? Yeah. Yeah. Iran said they, this is Tehran calls reports of U.S. talks fake news. They said, we don't know what you're talking about, dude. So quickly, looks like quickly they figured out, or they realized, or the stock market, everybody realized that he was just talking shit. Trump says he's postponed threatened strikes on Iranian power plants for 5 days. Oil and gas prices fall immediately. However, Iran's parliament speaker denies discussions have taken place, saying fake news is being used to manipulate the oil markets. And there could be a lot of different things going on with these statements as well. I mean, they could be buying time. I mean, it seems like the U.S.'s nose is a little bit bloodied with all of this. It's Glenn Greenwald. In the last 2 days, Trump vowed to bomb Iran's energy infrastructure if it didn't open the strait. Iran said, try it. Trump backed down, fabricating diplomatic breakthroughs. The U.S. lifted sanctions on Iranian oil at sea. But we covered that last week, which is they lifted the sanctions in order to steal the oil, if they can. Iran heavily struck 2 key Israeli cities. Let's listen to this.
The thing is clear that I think someone spoke sense in Donald Trump's circle and perhaps him directly, that if these strikes take place, it is going to be catastrophic for the civilian society, the civil infrastructure in Iran and the civil society inside this country, and also the retaliation that we might potentially see from Iran toward the Gulf states, but also Israel, will most certainly be enormous. So I think the cost is now outweighing President Trump's bombast and threat.
Both Iran and Israel instantly understood what Trump is up to, manipulating the markets and oil prices with claims of an imminent peace deal. Trump has feigned diplomatic breakthroughs with Iran multiple times since June. Only the U.S. media and markets believe it. Strange, right? This is unpopular. This is unpopular with our allies. This is unpopular with pretty much everybody. Trump didn't know or forgot that Iranian power salinization plants in the GCC, desalinization plants, I don't know what they're thinking. It could be that they just want, war is always good for the economy as long as you can keep it limited. This seems to be the playbook ever since World War II. Is that if you can get a little, a smaller skirmish going somewhere. I mean, look at Ukraine. Look at Syria. Look at Afghanistan. Look at, if you can get a small-ish skirmish that goes on for years going, it keeps the war economy booming. And as Denver stated, the United States, 60% of the economy is essentially government dollars and transfers, and and military spending, right? A large part of the economy is military spending, contracts, etc. Everything around it that's powered by these contracts, which is, just a massive part of the economy. Yeah, this war is unpopular. They need to thread the needle between having this limited skirmish thing going on trying to maybe replace Iran's leadership, but without getting you don't really want to get bogged down into a ground war. You don't want to start a draft, even though they've made moves to start a draft, because the unpopularity of that would cave. I mean, there is no support. There's only bot support. There is only fake support for this war. And whatever lunatics are left, armchair generals out there who think this is a good idea. But I mean, we can't really count you because you have no brains. You're just a part of the people that are like out to lunch. You have no idea what's going on. No, I don't think Trump surrounded himself with but I think the game that they're playing is one that they consider. It's something that they considered the possibilities of. And it's for some people, it's a moneymaker, right? For people who have money to throw around in the stock market, it's a moneymaker. For people who are benefiting, I mean, look at the Iraq war, all the way back to the Iraq war. Iraq had nothing to do with 9/11. It was a boon to Bush's friends, corporate friends. It was a corporate giveaway at the behest of a military incursion that had nothing to do with terrorism or 9/11. Iraq had nothing to do with anything. Afghanistan didn't have anything to do with anything other than controlling the poppy fields for 20 years. So, I mean, this actually fits the blueprint of, something, of calling something a boondoggle. Like, oh, oopsie, wow, that was, that was ill-advised. No, it wasn't ill-advised. It was totally planned. That you could go in, fumble around, look stupid, order a lot of military hardware, give the reason for the military to exist. But the problem is that always is that you are in danger of escalating things beyond the scope of what you can control or the way you can control it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Wesley. I mean, that's basically been the play of the entire Trump administration, is for people for Trump to come out and make statements regarding tariffs or war or whatever, and for everyone who's on the inside that know about which way he's going to go on these statements, they get in before he makes the statements or right when he makes the statements, and they benefit. Oh man. Meanwhile, Cuba warns it is prepared for a U.S. attack. Tensions between the United States and Cuba are once again drawing attention. Tensions drawing attention after new statements from Cuban officials suggest the country is preparing for the possibility of military conflict. And they put Cuba under such heavy sanctions that Cuba is having a really hard time functioning, right? Anyways, and on this side of it, 5 million tons of CO2 emitted in just 14 days of the U.S. war on Iran, analysis finds. And there was a good meme floating around about, showing the one of the smoke plumes from a bomb, quite a large detonation in Iran, and saying, but the government wants you to go test your car for emissions every year. Anyways, on to a little bit of climate. 14 states set new March max temperature records in the last heat wave. That's an absurd number of state records. Now, of course, in order to be deemed official, NOAA will have to certify. California, 112. Arizona, 112. Nevada, Kansas, New Mexico, Nebraska, Utah, South Dakota, Missouri, Iowa, Colorado, Wyoming, Minnesota, and Idaho. It has been, just brutally warm. It's kind of cooled down a little bit here, finally. It's been the hottest start to spring ever recorded in the Southwest, and it's not close. Brutal. California is not just experiencing a heat wave on land. A Category 3 to locally Category 4 marine heat wave has developed off the Southern California coast. La Jolla and San Diego recorded a water temperature of 71 Fahrenheit yesterday on the last day of winter. That's warmer than the average water temperature in August. Also, Nebraska has some major wildfires going on. The biggest wildfire in its recorded history. And it is, to remind you, March. 90 degrees in Chattanooga yesterday. Jesus. I can assure you that those are not regular happenings. Not here, not there, not anywhere. One dead as largest wildfire in Nebraska history, blazes over 640,000 acres across the state. Let's see. Don't want to miss anybody on Odyssey. Sorry, I'm not really checking the chats on the other channels. But I am checking the chats. Let's see. Hold on 1 second. Got to figure out where I am. I think I mixed up some of my tabs. It's okay. We kind of cover this on a regular basis. The loss of insects. Danish scientists counted bugs on the same windshield, same road, same conditions every year for 20 years. That sounds scientific. By year 20, 80% of the insects were gone. In Germany, a group of volunteer bug scientists did something even bigger. They set traps. We've read about this many times. In 63 nature reserves, not farms, protected land, and weighed everything they caught. Same traps, same method. 27 years straight, the total weight of the flying bugs dropped 76%. In midsummer, when insects should be peaking, it was 82% gone. Follow-up in 2020 and 2021, checked again, no recovery. In the UK, they literally asked drivers to count splats on their license plates after a trip. The 2024 count came back 63% lower than just 2021. Say what? In 3 years? In 3 years, 63% lower. A 2020 study pulled together 166 surveys from 1,676 locations around the world. Land insects are disappearing at roughly 9% every 10 years. Here's where it hits your plate. About 75% of food crops we grow depend on insects to pollinate them, everything from apples to almonds to coffee. One 2025 study modeled what a full pollinator collapse would look like. Food prices 30%. Global economy takes a $729 billion hit. And the world loses 8% of its vitamin A supply. Birds are already feeling it. North America has lost 2.9 billion birds. North America has lost 2.9 billion birds since 1970. A study from just weeks ago found half of 261 bird species on the continent are now in serious decline. And the losses are speeding up in farming regions. The birds that eat insects lost 2.9 billion. The birds that don't eat insects, they gained 26 million. That ratio tells the whole story. He goes on to say, the rare good news in all of this, bugs bounce back fast when you stop killing them. 4 years after the EU banned seed-coating pesticides, French researchers checked 57 bird species across 1,900 sites. Insect-eating birds were already recovering, up 2 to 3%. Small number, but the lead researcher said it matches what happened when DDT was banned decades ago. Full recovery took 10 to 25 years then. In areas where farmers plant wildflower strips along their fields, insect numbers came back by 30%. Where European countries rewilded degraded land, insect species variety jumped 20%. Butterfly and moth populations rose 40% and restored grassland and meadows. These aren't projections. This is measured data from programs already running. So the fixes work. The problem is scale. So just to kind of push back on the whole kind of goofy libertarian, like, oh, they're trying to control you. And, the European Union is just a bunch of World Economic Forum lunatics. I don't agree with everything that they want to do, but they do. They ban GMO foods and pesticides and dyes and things that are bad for you and bad for the environment, and they do it. It's just very simple. It's just not it's not a difficult thing to understand, I don't think. But for some reason, the idea that you can implement things that help nature as somehow like anti-human, or oh my God, they're going crazy with the control. Not all of it is about control. Not all of it is about depopulation or whatever it is that people want to it's not all about pushing you into a 15-minute city, or we talked about we've talked about this many times. I want to play you this. I just want to show you a couple of things that I think, the libertarian crowd takes some of these things and turns them into, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. But what they're really doing is either being, intentionally the mouthpieces for the the corporations that want to destroy you and the environment, either unwittingly or wittingly. And I'm sorry, I'm just not. You just got to be better than that. You got to be smarter than that. Some regulations are worth keeping and fighting for because these regulations protect people and protect the environment, and that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes you got to regulate shit so that you don't let all the freedom lunatics ruin everything because you're just letting them do whatever they want to do. What would be even better is if you educated people on this. What would make it seem like less of a top-down control kind of activity is if you educated people enough on the things that are happening and the consequences of the things that are happening and the things that are being done to alleviate. Most people would be like, okay, sounds good. I think we should protect the environment. Yes, I do want my children to breathe clean air. Yes, I do want, a better world in the future. I do, not want to go down the drain of a rapidly declining environment. Most people would support this because it makes sense and it's just logical. And it doesn't all have to be always like they're trying to control you. No, maybe they're just trying to help the situation. But this is interesting. Petrol rationing and new 50-mile-per-hour speed limit plan on the table for all of UK. I was reading the comments down here, and basically, this one commenter said they are implementing 50-mile-an-hour speed limits in Wales to improve air quality and are taking action to ensure the drivers comply with these limits. And the petrol rationing thing, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? I don't see an issue with that. That is a degrowth thing. And if you're rationing petrol, then that's not good for the oil companies, right? Especially if you can do it across the board, not just make it about like, individual consumers having to ration. How about militaries having to ration? How about, the wealthy having to ration? Of course, these are issues that have to be addressed, right? It can't just be you and I and the regular serfs out there rationing our petrol while the wealthy and the powerful just go about doing whatever they want to do. Like, that's not okay. Anyways, I wanted to play this because this is a good example of not understanding the problem or the solutions and just calling it, these World Economic Forum psychopaths want to take away your right to your freedom to drive your truck. To which I say, and there's been a lot of examples in Europe of them implementing these kinds of things to great effect, right? Like, they've reduced car traffic in Paris in order to alleviate had some just terrible smog going on in Paris. They've reduced car traffic. They've made lots of parts more walkable. They've done this in a lot of cities around Europe where they've done away with roads and just all you have is, biking and public transport in some of the inner cities in some of these places. And it's actually become a beautiful space, right? You take away the cars and, everything's in the US, everything is cars, roads, freeways, parking lots. And it's kind of gross. And it's kind of sad. And it's not, it doesn't make people happy, right? People sit around in traffic all day, feeling grumpy, feeling depressed, wondering why that, this is this is the way why do we have to live this way? Everybody's breathing in a bunch of smog. Everybody's listening to everybody rev their stupid fucking cars because people live such fucking sad, pathetic lives that that's the only thing they can feel happy about. It's like, oh, check me out. I'm sitting in traffic with a Hemi under my hood, and I can't go more than 10 miles an hour. I should feel like an idiot. All right, let's listen to this.
International Energy Agency, if you're just tuning in today, in its report, suggested to governments, this is not a demand yet, these are not mandates yet, but it's suggesting to governments around the world to start implementing something that we call energy lockdowns. They're actually asking for rapid demand reduction. That's their politically correct speak. But what they want the governments to suggest to people / mandate is working from home wherever possible, reducing car use,
Hold on.
including...
Hold on. This sounds great. He's reading this as if this is a problem. He's reading this as if, oh my God, this is crazy. This sounds great to me. Working from home whenever possible, reducing car use. Bring it on. Please.
For example, license plate directed activity, so that, let's just say, license plates that start with a certain letter or number can use their cars on Monday, Wednesday, and
they do this in Paris. They've already done this in Paris several years in a row. This is reducing traffic, reducing air pollution. It's actually been a great success. So I don't see the problem. I don't see what the problem is. And they do this in a lot of different cities.
Friday, and other license plates that start with a different number could use it Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever. They're seriously suggesting that governments start rolling this out ASAP, limiting air travel wherever possible. No shit. Didn't we say this is going to happen? They don't want people to travel any longer.
Oh my God. Again, what's the problem? What is the problem with that? Air travel is extremely polluting. And there's no, low emissions versions of air travel yet. It's extremely polluting. And I don't see the problem with it. I don't have a problem with this. Again, if especially if it's not just applied to the plebes. And that's a battle, right, that still has to be fought, I'm sure. Because if they do implement this stuff, there's right, if you're any position of power or have some power, you're gonna, these things don't apply to you, or you can buy your way out of it or something like that. Yeah, the other problem I have with this is like energy, not energy, just having it be just a money making scheme, right? So you can implement these rules and be like, this is for the good of the environment, but if you want to pay an extra $10 a day or $10 a week or whatever it is, well, then you can drive on every other, you don't have to drive on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can drive every day if you pay an extra thing, like what they've done with the roads here in LA and all around the country, which really sucks. Like back in the day, they used to have carpool lanes. Carpool lanes were supposed to reduce traffic or, eliminate so many cars on the road. Give people a perk for having more than one person in their car, right? Try to eliminate like single person occupancy in a car. And now they've turned all those carpool lanes into like paid, like toll roads, basically. And you can still get in those lanes if you have more than one person, if you have the box. So there's a point where they make money off of you for getting the box or renting the box or whatever. But if you want to take the road, if you want to take the carpool lane, you can pay to get in the carpool lane. And so it's just become a money-making scheme. And that's the other downfall of probably doing stuff like this, is that they'll just turn it into a money-making scheme. If you have enough money, you can pay to get out of the restrictions, which doesn't actually help anybody.
Longer. Public transport and all of those things. Now, we believe that these measures will be taken very seriously and will be discussed publicly. I suspect that in Europe and most European countries, the governments are going to be very pro these measures, and that's what they're going to suggest to people. We should do that, all in the name of preserving oil, because they say the Iran war and the subsequent all but closure of the Strait of Hormuz, one of or the most important passages in the world where oil is being transported, has been disrupted so heavily that only a tiny fraction of the millions of barrels that usually come through the Strait of Hormuz is now coming through. So this is going to be interesting. Please don't look at this as an isolated thing. Don't look at this as sort of just a.
Anyways, you get the gist. You get the idea. I don't know if degrowth is their game. I don't know. Are they just hoping that people just fall off, fall out of the system, fall off the planet, basically? Little by little, as people get starved out and economically pushed out of the system. Which again would be another reason for people to get out, get out sooner on their, on purpose, right? To start forming communities where you can grow your own food or have, people are taking care of each other. That, communities that are not Skid Row, communities that are not tents under bridges, but people who are like, hey, I got to exit the system, exit and build. Where can I go to do that? Right. And in a way that's, sustainable and healthy and not chaotic and dangerous, I guess. Yeah. Yeah, dude. Oh, okay. A couple other interesting posts. I guess I didn't know that Aaron Day was running for Senate. I guess they predicted that the Democrats are going to take the Senate. In the upcoming elections, 23 GOP seats are exposed. 7 Republicans are retiring. Now, I know that it's probably wiser not to vote Dem or Republican at all, but it seems like also I don't know what the alternatives are or the options are. And I see a lot of people trying to throw themselves into political races on the side of the Democrats. I'm not really sure. I just don't see the Democrats being, as an organization, a real opposition to the Republicans. I don't know if Aaron Day is running independent or not. Oh, he's running as an independent. Right. I think, yeah, I see people backing, Democrats or the left, the blue side, as an opposition to what's going on. But we really need to, and that it's a difficult thing because we need to get a strong independent voice going here, because the Democrats are not actually truly oppositional. Anyways, I'm going to read this. Senate is slipping, and I'm the one who tips it. Prediction markets just flipped. Democrats are now favored to retake the Senate for the first time since 2024. Republicans hold Republicans hold 53 seats, but 23 of them are on the ballot, and I'm running in the one state that decides it all. Polymarket has Democrats at 51% to retake the Senate. A year ago, they were at 18%. That's not a poll, that's money. Real bets from real people who think the majority is gone. Cook Political, Sabato, Crystal Ball, and Insider Elections all rate the New Hampshire Senate seat as lean or tilt Democrat. Pappas leads Sununu 50-45. Trump's New Hampshire approval is 32%. The Republican brand is toxic here. 7 Republican senators are retiring. Maine, North Carolina, Texas, Iowa, Ohio, Alaska are all in play. Democrats only need 4 seats. The map hasn't looked this bad for the GOP since 2018. I'm running as an independent in New Hampshire. I don't need to win. I need Sununu to lose. A 2 to 4% spoiler in a race decided by 5 points flips the seat, flips the Senate, and ends the Republican majority. I've done this before. In 2016, I pulled 17,742 votes, and 3 Republicans lost by less than that. Interesting. The GOP has a choice: pardon the crypto political prisoners, kill the Clarity Act, fire Lutnick, or I run. Sununu loses, and they lose the Senate. The off-ramp exists. They just have to take it. I'm not a protest candidate. I'm a math problem for the Republican Party that the Republican Party can't solve without giving the Liberty Movement what it wants. All right. Well, that's interesting. I follow several people who are running as independents. Does covering prediction markets count as gambling promotion? I don't know, Zalupa. Prediction markets are questionable. Sure. Time for a government rebrand with a uniparty face change, maybe. Did you see that Kalshi was banned in Las Vegas? Denver? Kalshi and Polymarket are both advised by Trump Jr. Yeah, well, they're saying this is another place where government insiders are scraping money. But I think you're going to see a backlash, just like with the data centers, right? Yeah, and also flock cameras. Flock cameras and data centers are not popular, and so you have a lot of city councils coming out and voting against these things. And you may see a backlash for sure on the Kalshi. So in Nevada, this is from today. Nevada judge has issued a temporary restraining order blocking Kalshi from operating in the state, effectively halting its services in Nevada, including Las Vegas. Decision follows legal challenges from state regulators who argue that Kalshi's activities constitute unlicensed sports betting. The company has paused operations in Nevada and is appealing the ruling. Pretty sure Kalshi and Polymarket are part of a larger statistical regressive analysis identifying the most effective drivers. Yeah, I mean, I see it. I see it, Denver. Yeah. It's a driver of. It could be used as a quantifier of public sentiment or push public sentiment. Sure. it's people are so right locked into so many avenues of information. It's really easy to manipulate how people think about things, especially if you're really not paying too much attention. One more thing, ICE agents are now stepping in to take up the slack for the TSA agents who have walked out. And this is what it looked like in San Francisco.
Leave her alone! Fucking what are you doing? Leave her alone! What the hell are you doing?
I hope you're so fucking proud of yourself.
So, these aren't deployed, but they just happen to make their way to the airport. ICE is standing behind TSA agents as they check IDs, not speeding the line up. They're looking for people to detain. But there obviously issues with this. People are saying that they're trying to get rid of the TSA, unionize TSA agents, and bring in like private contractors. Yeah, I saw that, Denver. And the wild card of the upcoming elections is how, will ICE be deployed to polling stations in blue states? Do they just need to have the threat of ICE being deployed out there to keep people away from the polls? And if you're putting ICE at the airports, sure. Could this be an excuse to just give ICE, more reign to detain people? Could it be a play to undermine the TSA? I don't know. The question that everybody has is, if you can't pay TSA agents, but you can pay ICE to do their job, that doesn't make a lot of sense. What happens when ICE agents get pissed off with their pay or their treatment, or they're standing in the community and they decide that it's not something they want to do anymore? I don't know. I forgot this post here from RT. I assure you there's absolutely no U.S.-Iran talks.
Well, there are no talks right now, direct or indirect. I assure you, absolutely no talks. But the Iranians are on their guard. There is no way in the world that the Iranians are going to trust Trump or the Trump regime for even a second. We are at war. This is a war of defense, and we will continue to fight against the two aggressive regimes, the Trump regime and the Netanyahu regime, until they are defeated and until Iran's conditions are met. And Iran is prepared for a very, very long war. Iran has the United States, it has Trump by the throat. Iran controls the Strait of Hormuz, and the United States can do nothing about it. Even if the United States launches an assault, and tries to take territory from Iran or a foothold on Iranian territory, nothing will change. There is not a chance in the world that Iran will allow oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz without its consent, and Trump knows it. So Iran has the upper hand, and time is definitely on Iran's side. Well, there are no...
Okay. So we're going to see, a lot of this stuff developed this morning. So we're going to see how this plays out this week. Trump said there was a 5-day moratorium on bombing. We'll see if that lasts. Trump's word doesn't carry much of anything these days, so could change tonight, could change tomorrow morning. Who knows? It could be they did that before when they said, "Oh, we're going to have some peace talks or a ceasefire," and then they went and bombed straight afterwards. So, I mean, we could wake up tomorrow morning and see that they've bombed all their energy infrastructure. I don't know. The pay sounds pretty good, says Schultze. For what? ICE agent? Yeah. Okay. I don't know how you do that, man. I don't know how you do that. Professor Morandi's word is good. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people agree that Iran is not gonna lay down, that they still have plenty of bullets in the chamber. Although it's hard to know totally what's going on. They're not, you're not getting a full picture of what's happening. There's claims of Iran strikes all over the place, especially in Israel. That is, it's hard to confirm all those things just from looking at Twitter or someplace or Substack or the internet. Who knows? There are reports about U.S. casualties that are being debated. Some say up to 150 when they last claimed 8 or something like that. And obviously they want to keep tight control on whatever information people are getting about winning and losing. Apparently the Gerald Ford is non-operational for the next almost 2 years. So there's that. The Ford was badly hit, looks like, by an Iranian strike. What else? I thought I had something else, but I don't know if I have it here. But that being said, it is 1:00, so it is the end of the hour. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate you. If you want to support the channel, you know how to do it. There are a bunch of links in the description box. All the usuals are there: Venmo, PayPal, Cash App, so buy me a coffee, Ko-Fi, etc. Thanks to everybody that supports the show. You know who you are. Also, I'm going to do a music stream tomorrow at noon on YouTube at Kevin Sandbloom, Instagram at Kevin Sandbloom, Patreon at Kevin Sandbloom, the #1. So if you guys want to tune into the music stream tomorrow at noon, do it. All right, guys. Appreciate you. Thanks for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. And until next time, beware the bear.